Okay, so welcome to the Ultra Running Sam podcast. This is the preamble that a few people have requested. So today's episode will be speaking to Hannah Rickman, who I met personally last week during the spine race. So I followed her up and down the course along with the rest of the media team and the rest of the podium positions during the race, as well as the other races that went on with the sprint, the 46 mile route, the Challenger South, which was 108, and then obviously the Challenger North, 180, and then the full spine. So there was lots of people to video, lots of people to photograph. I've done some, put a few videos that I took over the week. I probably got about 2 hours worth of footage, so there's plenty to look through, but I've only managed to put together probably the ones that I sort of took off the GoPro and put onto the social medias, a little bit of Facebook and then the Instagram stories that the spine put me in charge of somehow. So all the stories that you saw during the time that the race was on, that was most likely me putting it on. So people sent me stuff, or I took footage and made them into stories. So I've made a 15-minute video, just sort of giving those highlights. So all the ones that were on the Instagram stories and some that weren't, just chuck them together into a 15-minute video, and that's on YouTube as well. So you can go check that out. So we're awaiting Hannah joining the Zoom meeting, and we'll look forward to having a chat with Hannah and finding out how her race got on. Okay, so welcome to the Ultra Running Sam podcast, Hannah Rickman.
Thanks, very nice to see you.
Yeah, we were just saying just before I hit record, it's nice to see you looking slightly more glamorous than the last few times that I saw you. To be in fact, how have you recovered?
Yeah, feeling pretty good. Still a couple of niggles and things, but yeah, definitely in a better place than the last time I saw you, I think.
Yeah, I seem to just pop up at probably the worst points during the race.
You chose your moments when I was like picking up my feet, having a little cry, covered in mud. Yeah, no, thanks for that.
Yeah, apologies for the so firstly then, let's sort of start from the beginning then. So if there's people watching or listening to this podcast who don't know who you are, obviously people connected with the spine will know all about you, but could you sort of give us a bit of a background to your history with running, how you got into running, and your upbringing, and as much detail or as little detail as you want to go into?
Yeah, sure. So I guess I got into running relatively recently, maybe like 4 or 5 years ago now. So I'd done a lot of team sports through school, played a lot of hockey at university, but never really, I guess running was like for fitness rather than something that was the main thing that I did. But I'd always spent a lot of time kind of outside and hiking, and I guess in places like the Pennine Way and kind of other bogs up and down the country and down mountains. And then, got into running maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I was living in the States for a year, and I met a really nice group of friends who were really into the kind of trail running scene. And, once you start trail running, you sort of end up on this slippery slope where you run a 50k, and that's quite fun. And so then you come back for a 50 miler and still good. So I did my first 100 miler in 2021. Then after that, I was looking for something longer than 100 miles. So I did the Spine Challenger North last winter, and then the full spine this winter. So yeah, it's been a sort of got a bit out of hand a bit quickly, I would say.
So that's quite a rapid. Well, I say it's a rapid ascent through the distances. It's not really, because that's sort of 4 or 5 years. It's a reasonable amount. Did you feel under any pressure to up the stakes as you sort of went through the races, or did it just feel like a natural progression?
No, I was just enjoying it. I sort of felt like I was having more fun, and I guess just enjoying the races a lot more the longer they got. And kind of the thing I like is being outside in nice places, and being with friends, being around other people. And there was never a point where I was like, okay, that was too far. Haven't yet reached that point.
Well, yeah, I suppose if you've done the full spine now, what's What is there left of
No,
a
stop. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't thought about that yet.
maybe a backyard ultra, but maybe that could
Stop.
be
Dangerous talk.
the ultimate test of endurance. So last year then, how comparing doing Challenger North? So sorry, was that Challenger North winter last year?
Yeah,
So
in the
how
winter.
did
So it's the first edition, yeah.
how did that kind of compare to this year? Was it sort of like, did it feel like a natural thing to do to have gone, had the finish in Kirkgate and then thought, I want to be back here next year doing the full? Was that how it felt automatically?
Pretty much, I have to say. I guess normally after an ultra, there's a period where you don't want to think about running ever again, and it was pretty short after the Challenger North, and I pretty much, it felt like, I got to the wall at the end and I touched the wall, but I didn't feel like I could kiss the wall until I'd done the whole thing. So like pretty much from that moment, I felt like it was something I wanted to come back and have a go at. And it was such a fun event. I loved it, and the people were amazing. The landscapes are amazing, and just the whole thing. I was pretty much kind of bitten by the bug, I guess. From that point.
Yeah. It's interesting you mentioned the kissing the wall and touching the wall, because there was a bit of debate among the media team about what was appropriate for what distance.
Goodness me, what were people going for?
The final decision was that you could touch the wall if you'd done the Challenger North, but you weren't allowed to kiss the wall. You could only kiss the wall.
That's interesting.
If you'd done the full spine, and
that was no one told me that, but that was my independent conclusion when I did it.
It feels natural. You didn't feel the urge to sit in the plant pot then?
This year, I don't know. I feel like both finish lines I've just felt so kind of overwhelmed and all over the place that happy to sit, face plant, whatever.
So compared to last year then, how did you race? Obviously it was a lot longer, but how did it sort of compare as far as actually the event and how it went for you, as far as those two races, the differences between them?
Yeah, it's just, I think I probably underestimated how much of a different beast, again, the full spine is compared to, the Challenger North is more than half the distance. So I kind of thought, okay, well, you just sort of put a 100-miler on the front and you're good to go. But just, it was so much more than twice as hard. Like the sleep was just much harder. The attrition of, I guess in the Challenger North I was out for 2 nights. And so it's just a different thing compared to those extra nights on the trail, that extra time, that extra kind of wear and tear on your body. It was definitely a lot harder.
But what did that experience of the Challenger North teach you that you thought was sort of, invaluable for this year with the full?
Yeah, it was definitely great to have had. I guess it meant I'd like seen a lot of the second half of the course, which was really nice. It meant I'd done lots of things like, ironing out some problems with my kit and working out what I could eat. And I guess just sort of having a bit of an idea of the terrain of, that was my first kind of multi-day event. So a little bit about what it was like to be out for several days, to be quite self-sufficient, to have those like long gaps between checkpoints, to be really like proactive about kind of self-management and taking care of myself. But then the full spine was just like all of that, but on steroids, just even more so.
Just thinking of the positives then, what was your sort of favorite part of doing the full spine?
Oh, I mean, I loved it. I love it, I loved the whole event. It was fantastic. There were definitely obviously like highs and lows. I guess the two things for me always is it's such an amazing place. Like I love the landscapes, I love the Pennine Way, and we just had the most insane weather. Just having those days out with the super cold temperatures and the blue skies and the snow on the hills. Going up Crossfell was like the most nuts thing I've ever done. Sort of incredible winds whipping around and this kind of North Pole ice blasted kind of Arctic landscape. It's just, I remember being there at 5 a.m. and just thinking like, there is no way I would ever be here at 5 a.m. like on my own in the dark if it wasn't for the spine race. And then the obvious kind of end of that sentence is like, because it's a stupid idea, because it's a stupid thing to be doing. But it was amazing. So the Pennine Way itself is incredible. The whole kind of occasion is incredible. And then the other thing that I just love so much about it is the people, like all of the other runners, all of the other, like all the volunteers, all of the people that are just out helping on the course. Sorry, there's a bit of background noise. Is it all right, or can you?
No, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah, we were
okay. Yeah.
Carry on.
Good stuff. Yeah, and it's like a big highlight for me was going through. So I volunteered at Middleton in the summer spine, and so going back through Middleton and like seeing all the people I volunteered with was such a special moment. I mean, I'm sort of like welling up again just thinking about it. It was just all the people that come together to make the spine and to make the whole thing work, and all the kind of little acts of support when you're at a low point, and all the kind of hugs and encouragement and people giving you Snickers in the fields. Like, yeah, it's just amazing. It's just nothing else like it.
Yeah, amazing. Middleton in Teesdale, that was the checkpoint I was at last winter. So I was there for the week.
Yeah, you ran me in.
Yeah,
remember. You did on Challenge North.
I think I kind of overstepped my my job responsibilities during that week, because I still get remarks about it now that all we were supposed to do was sort of be out in the road welcoming people in off the course and into the checkpoint. But myself and Paul Howler, who did the full spine this year, we took it on ourselves to go a bit further and a bit further and a bit further, and we ended up sort of going all the way through the town and down.
I think you met me halfway up the hill. Yeah.
Well, I managed to get a few miles in, you see, while I was running up and down with people. I think I got on one of the shifts, I got about 20 miles in, so I was quite happy with a bit of training while I was away from home. It's quite nice to get a bit of the scenery while we're there.
Yeah.
But enough about me. So as far as your preparation then for going into the full spine, how is it different from the way that you prepared for doing Challenger North then? Was it just a case of more volume, or was it pretty much the same preparation?
Probably pretty similar, but more of it, I would say. So I don't live in the UK, I live in Malawi, which is in Southern Africa. So we have kind of not very much bog, not very much snow, not very much kind of winter rain, but it's very hilly, and we have some amazing kind of mountain ranges. So I've just spent a lot of really great weekends like out in the hills with friends. And I think that's like a big thing for me is, I was training for a big event like this, but I was kind of thinking to myself as I was going into it, like, even doing the training, it just given me so many kind of fun experiences and kind of good times up in the hills. So yeah, I guess lots of sort of, weekends with a bag on, doing a bit of hiking, a bit of running, and then quite a lot of just kind of general like running fitness around the city I live in, and trying to keep in a little bit of speed work and just sort of reasonable volume, I guess.
So are you sort of self-coached, or do you have a coach advising you?
No, I have a lovely coach. So I work with a group called Camino Ultra, who are based in London. So Dave Bone also ran the spine this year, and then Paula Bedford, who I work with a lot, and they're fantastic. So yeah, it's also like Dave's first time doing the spine, so I feel like the two of us kind of went on this like adventure together of trying to figure out what on earth we were doing, and Paula leading the way. Yeah, and they're brilliant. So that's been really great. Yeah, so
Dave ran with a lot of the race with Leon Fairbrother. Yeah. So I coached Leon.
And no way. Okay.
So it's something similar that, between the two, well, between three of us. So Paul Howlett as well, who I met at Middleton last year on the winter at checkpoint. He came to me for coaching, and I kind of just sort of said, to be honest, I've only ran the sprint. I've not ran any of the longer distances. I know what I can do for you as a coach, but it might be a bit of a quest for all of us together to kind of figure out what it takes to be able to complete the full spine. So unfortunately, Paul,
it obviously worked.
Well, it did work. Leon did brilliantly. I was so impressed with Leon and the way that I've never seen somebody like just so calm all of the time. He's a naturally laid back guy anyway. But every time I managed to see him when I paths crossed when I was doing media, he always just seemed to be just like accepting of everything that was happening in the race, and nothing seemed to faze him, and he was just happy to just get on with things. Unfortunately,
I
I
saw
think
those guys finish. They looked amazing.
they did, didn't they? Yeah, they just looked like they were stomping in together and so happy.
Right.
And then on the other side, I've got Paul, who I'd coached, and he had prepared for a long time. He'd prepared for a full year for the spine, and unfortunately for him, it was like he had trouble with his Achilles on both sides, and he got to Bellingham, and then he wanted.
That's a long way to get.
Yeah, he just couldn't go any further. He said the idea of having to go over the Cheviots was just a no because he couldn't even get up a step by that point. So he made the wise decision to call it a day.
Yeah, there's not really anywhere to hide, is there? If you get unlucky with injuries or stuff like that comes up, it's just
not on the Cheviots either. Yeah, it was dicey just going up, up and around those areas to do some filming. So you guys did amazing to get over that trail. How deep was the snow?
It was pretty deep. I mean, we were lucky that the Challenger North guys and the front runners had blazed a bit of a trail for us. But yeah, there were a few times I kind of went off course or whatever, and I was up to my waist in parts of it. It was pretty, and that's pretty dispiriting when you're like off the trail, kind of flailing around waist deep. That was pretty miserable.
Wow. So what would you have preferred? Were you happy with those conditions, or would you have preferred it, because if it had not been as cold, all of that water would have been rain rather than snow? Would you have been happier with rain and been able to get a steadier footing, or was the ice acceptable because you weren't wet?
Yeah, and I was saying the whole time in the build-up, like cold is fine, I can deal with cold, you just put on more layers, not a big deal. And that it being really wet was the thing I was worried about. And then when it rolled around, I was a bit like, oh, be careful what you wish for, this is quite cold. But it was, I think it meant lots of bits that would have been really boggy were actually frozen over. It was a bit of slipping and sliding around. And it was, especially towards the end when you're getting a bit tired and a bit depleted, like it was cold. But I think on balance, we were pretty lucky with the weather, to be honest. I think it's, easier than stuff falling from the sky.
Yeah, true. So as far as your kit and everything, were you happy with the choices that you made? Was there anything that you'd sort of regretted using or not using from your experience before?
Yeah, pretty good, to be honest. No major dramas. And like I said, I think the dry weather is a bit easier to sort of deal with. We just put on, just had lots of layers and just kept on putting more on, and that was sort of fine. Yeah, no big disasters.
Yeah, fair enough. So as far as your plans go for more spine races, what are you thinking? Is this it, done? Are you happy, or do you feel like you've got to come back and push it a bit further?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I feel like I've gone over the past, I guess it's only a week ago we were in Caglietta. I've gone from 50-50 to really pretty keen to come back for some more. Like I said, I love the event so much. I love the people, and I guess also the other thing is it's my first time doing it, and you come away from it with so many things that you're like, I'd have done this differently. This is a bit that I could have done better. This is something I could improve on. So yeah, I feel like you learn so much about the race by doing it. You learn a lot about yourself and how you deal with those situations. And there are definitely a lot of mistakes that I made, a lot of things I feel like I'd like to have another go at and see. So yeah, I'm not 100%, but I think I'll probably be on the 6th of February trying to click quickly through the pages and sign up on time. And if not, I'll be volunteering. Yeah, so planning to be there next Wednesday, whatever.
So what? Speaking about sort of things that did go wrong, is there anything that was sort of glaringly obvious on reflection that you sort of kicked yourself for doing during the race?
I felt like I didn't get sleep right at all. I'm not quite sure what the solution to that is, but I definitely had a couple of nights where I was just moving so slowly that you're like, that any time that I'd spent sleeping would have been more than paid back by not hallucinating in a bog and wandering around in circles and dropping things and just being a complete waste of space. So I think there were a few bits where I didn't sleep for long enough, or I didn't just like eat and drink and kind of take care of myself. I definitely had a few bits where I was moving just like extremely slowly. And I felt like I didn't do a good enough job at like stopping and sorting myself out and kind of identifying what the problems were. So I think that's definitely, one of the big things I'd try and work on is seeing if I can manage that a bit better.
Because one of the times I saw you at, where was it? Was that Bellingham where I saw you, and you'd had a big sleep, and was that Bellingham? Wasn't it?
Yeah, well, it could have been anywhere, to be honest. I had quite a few big sleeps. I like got myself into a mess, then I'd have a massive sleep and life would be good again. I had a good couple of hours in Bellingham, which in spine terms is, a big sleep. In like the normal world, when you're on hour 100 or whatever, it's not really very much. But I had a lovely couple of hours in Bellingham. And off the back of that, just felt amazing, and suddenly was moving again, and my legs were working and could actually like function and move forwards. I think just being a bit more tuned in to kind of what's going on that side of things, and getting better at responding a bit earlier would be a big change for next time.
You signed up again.
No, I've said it.
so as far as the plan for if you do get in again, what will you do differently in your preparation?
So in the preparation, I guess like probably pretty similar, to be honest. I felt like I was going into it physically in a pretty good state. And there's like a few things, I've got a couple of niggles now, like a couple of areas to work on from a strength perspective, and sort of a few things I'd work on. But to be honest, it didn't feel like I was running at the end. Like I still felt like I could move for most of it. So I think it would be more about, so stuff during the race, like checkpoint admin, being more efficient, getting more on top of sleep, recognizing when I need to have a nap, maybe sleeping a bit more earlier on, and kind of not letting myself get to a point where I was like depleted and useless. Being more on my food and drink. So more, I feel like more those kind of like race management things.
Where did you sleep first? Where was the first place that you slept?
I slept in Hawes, and like weirdly, I got an hour and a half in Hawes, which I kind of thought would be, so checkpoint 2, which I sort of thought would be fine, and then went back out again that night and had one of my worst nights on the course. So I don't know if it was, I think I also like got a bit hungry and got a bit dehydrated, like my water bottle had frozen because it was so cold. But I just had like such a sloppy night on Great Shannon Fell, and just all sorts of hallucinations. That leg took me, obviously it's the first leg of the Challenger North, so so last year I did it when I was fresh, but it took me more than twice as long as it had done the previous year, just because I was just a waste of space, seeing like hallucinating like fairgrounds and like just all sorts of weird stuff going on. I guess maybe it's just small things like that. 1.5 hours should have been 2 at that early point, and that could have been enough to make a difference for me. I think it's really individual, and it's not something, I've not done lots of multi-day stuff before, so I feel like I feel like I'm sort of learning what I respond to and what I need when.
Shannon Fell was interesting, wasn't it? When you came down off the back of there was a lot of ice coming down that path, wasn't there? I know.
It's just not my favorite place. Not my favorite place. I was not having a good time.
No, we went up there. Me and Tanya, one of the photographers, we hiked up there, intending to get right to the top, but even for us, just the weather just turned and the clouds rolled in, and it just basically just went to zero visibility. And how do you feel when and then the light obviously went as well. How do you feel in those kind of situations when you possibly, you are on your own in the middle of nowhere? Have you got a kind of a coping strategy or something that you kind of, a mantra that you say to yourself to get through those kind of difficult situations?
Yeah, to be honest, like if I'm feeling all right, I don't really mind. Like I did quite a lot of the course, just the way it worked out. I did quite a lot of it on my own. And that side of things is sort of all right. Like I, can sort of tick along to myself, and it was more just when I was tired that things felt really tough. Just kind of every step just feels more and more rubbish, I guess. So I don't know, maybe I should have a mantra or something. It was normally just like getting annoyed at myself, shouting myself. I did a lot of shouting at the trail, singing aloud to try and keep myself awake. There was a lot of kind of one woman karaoke going on the top of Great Shinnock Fell. Not very tunefully. Hopefully you headed back down before you heard any of that, because it probably wasn't my finest hour.
Just speaking of like singing and stuff, then are you the type of runner that listens to music or podcasts, or on a race or in training or anything like that?
Yeah, I had some emergency music, so I normally try and keep it for when I need a bit of a boost. So I mean, it's not cool stuff. Like we had the Disney's Greatest Hits playlist was what took me over the Cheviot. So,
yes. I remember you saying about that. Yeah.
Yeah, the low points is when the music comes in, and then it's cheesy stuff and Disney and musical theatre.
I think cool. Did somebody make the joke about Frozen, this Frozen soundtrack?
Yeah, that was pretty great. That was a good moment.
Excellent. So do you feel like as far as your performance went, coming straight in and taking second woman in your first full spine, do you feel like you're now, not that you've got something to prove, or do you feel like you want to push and go for that first place, or are you just content with sort of trying to find out your personality, whether you are really competitive, or did you have that? Because every time I asked you on course, we spoke about your position, and you kind of just sort of, well, it is what it is kind of thing, and Claire was like, you'd kind of put Claire out of your mind. It seemed like you put Claire out of your mind anyway. Was that the case?
I mean, Claire was back home in bed in France by the time I got anywhere near Kirkhead. So that was just, what she did was completely phenomenal. And I feel like a bit of a fraud saying I came in second when I was like a day behind where she was. That was just like quite some performance. And yeah, just what an incredible athlete. So I sort of knew from pretty early on there was no way I was gonna catch her unless her legs fell off. She just was so far ahead. So that wasn't really on the radar. And coming second was not something that I even slightly anticipated might happen. There were so many strong women lining up. I felt like I didn't really know what I was doing. And I think with these kind of races, there's so many variables, like you said, like you can get injured, you can go wrong. There's, so many things that can make your race not go well. And so I guess I was quite consciously, especially in the first like 2/3 of the race, I was trying really hard not to race. Just because I didn't want to be basing like when I was sleeping or how I was managing myself on someone else's timetable or someone else's agenda. I wanted to be really like, taking care of myself and doing what I needed to do to get on the trail and to get to Kirkhead. So yeah, I'm as I say, like it's not obvious to me where I can shave a day off the time. So in terms of like being competitive this year, that definitely was feels like a very, very, very long way away. And as I say, like Claire was completely phenomenal. But I want to see what I can do better, and where I can make those savings and where I can make those improvements. And as I say, more, I think different people are going to line up every year, especially often the women's field end up being like disappointingly small. So you kind of, for me, it's definitely about like, how do I do against the trail and how do I do against the race rather than a position.
Because that's the thing about the spine, isn't it? That anything can happen, and it usually does every year.
Right, exactly.
Something happens that surprises everybody, and just because so I think I was looking back at the footage that I'd got, and I've got a snippet of you crossing the bridge at where you go from Wessendon up onto Marsden Moor, and I think I'd been counting how many had been coming through, and I think I shouted to you third woman coming through, and you kind of had like a puzzled look on your face. So did that kind
that
of
was not on my radar. That was not on my radar at all. And I think that suddenly then the first night coming down into Lothersdale, I think someone had told me I was in fourth at that point, and I was over the moon with that and kind of chilling. And then suddenly I went through I overtook Laura, and then straight afterwards went through Lothersdale where Elaine Bisson had unfortunately retired. And so suddenly I'd gone from like completely minding my own business, not having any aspirations of doing anything other than getting to the end, to being in second, which was not like, I can't even explain how much that was like not on my radar, like not on my agenda for how things were going to happen. But as I say, like that just felt like such an early stage. So I was trying really hard to just be, taking it easy, looking after myself, not worrying too much about what other people were up to, and getting through to the end and seeing what happens.
Yeah, I think so after that point then, so were you sort of because I was trying to keep up with the race, did you kind of, at what point did you, because Fanny came, what happened with that then? Was Fanny was behind you at that point then, and then did she overtake you then for you then later on? Because I think after, when I saw you coming down to Alston, you'd left Fanny in the checkpoint, or she'd started behind you. How was that crossover? How did that work?
So I got into Middleton a bit before Fanny, and then I was feeling like rubbish and felt like I needed to have a sleep. And so that was, I guess, one of the moments where and she cracked straight on. And that was for me like a very clear moment of like, this is not a time that I want to be racing. Like, I feel rough, I need to get a couple of hours of sleep. So then I laid down in Middleton and Fanny kept on going. And actually I saw her. So then I think she left a bit ahead of me. Then I made up some time, and I felt like that was the right decision for me, because I woke up and moved much better than I would have done otherwise. Saw her again in Dufton, kind of before Crossfell, and then sort of, I guess, caught back up with her almost at that point, and then saw her in Greg's Hut. And Fanny and I came second and third in the Challenger North last year, so we'd done a bit of this kind of thing before. Yeah. So it was really nice to see her again. I mean, she's phenomenal. She's such a nice girl. And I hadn't realised in Greg's Hut that she was feeling a bit rubbish and having some knee problems at that point. So it definitely wasn't a like planned overtake. We were just hanging out together, having some noodles, and then I was cracking on with a couple of the guys, and she just stayed for a bit of a nap. And then I saw her again in Alston, and then not after that, I don't think.
Do you kind of get a sense of, the positions of, because I always wonder this with such a long race and not really, you kind of only got what the checkpoint people are sort of telling you. Do you have a feel of where the field is, or is it kind of every time someone mentions it to you, it's like news out of nowhere?
I guess, I mean, if you want to find out, you can find out, right? You can get your phone out at any point and see like exactly where anyone is. So I think, as I say, like for the first most of it, I was consciously not finding out. I think I double checked with someone that Claire was so far away that I shouldn't bust a gut trying to catch her. Once I confirmed that, I was like, okay, that's fine. Good to know. So mostly I wasn't super aware of what was going on. There was a bit of like, I don't know how much it was actually leaving Bellingham, and that was a bit more like dramatic. I don't know whether it actually was. It felt, I don't know, I'd had a long sleep there, and as I was leaving, everyone was like, Eddie's getting ready to go, which was a bit of a surprise. And I don't know how much that actually like was true, or how. I don't really know what was going on there. I hadn't really seen her in Belgium. So
she not
felt like a bit of a race.
Did she not stop? And
I think maybe she didn't stop for very long, whereas I'd had quite a long pause there.
I think I spoke to her when she'd just come in and was sat down, and I had a quick chat with her on video. And then while I was waiting for you, because you were asleep, I waited for you, and then someone came over and said, "Oh, Hannah's awake now." So I kind of finished chatting to Eddie, and then came over to you. And then I think by the time I came back, what happened then? Who left first?
I think I left first. I must have left first because I didn't see her again. So I don't really know, but I was kind of told as I was leaving that she was getting ready to go, which like if she did without any sleep, like absolutely fair play to her, because that's the brave, like bold thing to do. And it definitely like it made me move faster on that section, which was probably a good thing. I mean fair play to her if she did that, but I wasn't super aware of what was going on generally.
So you didn't feel like the urge to get your phone out and have a look at the open tracking?
I think I had a look in Burness just to see on that last section, just to kind of see where I was at, and she was still trucking along, so I was like, okay, I better keep on trucking along. But I definitely wasn't like constantly checking it on the trail, and you don't have signal for a lot of it as well, and you just can't tell what's going on with someone else's. Someone else could be close behind you but feeling like rubbish or having a sleep, or there's so many things to think about. If you start worrying about other people, I think you end up in there's lots of ways that can end in tears.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So just thinking about just putting the spine to one side then, has this sort of given you aspirations of doing other big races? And have you got anything sort of planned for, if you don't get into, so are you thinking of doing the summer spine again, or are you just thinking of just the winter again?
Probably the winter. And if I'm in the UK, I'd volunteer in the summer again. But I guess it's just a bit like, well, it's great being based here, but there's like, I'm trying not to fly for races, so that's I guess a consideration. So there's not a lot of races here, but like often I'm trying to do, like, if I'm back in the UK for another reason, or I'm traveling for some other reason, then see what else is available. So yeah, I think for the next, while I'm based here, it's I've got a race in South Africa in April, which is sort of our local trail races, and then a few kind of like adventures with friends and a few sort of projects and things that we're hoping to tick off. So I think that'll be the kind of initial plan, and then maybe the spine next winter, and then kind of take it from there, I guess.
Yeah. So you've got nothing sort of on your bucket list of races that you're sort of desperate to get into?
I've got loads on my bucket list of races, but I think at the moment it's sort of not. I tend not to race too much either. I feel like something like this just takes a lot out of you as well. So so doing 100 miler in April, and some friends and I have got a plan to. Malawi's like a long, thin country with Lake Malawi on one side, and we've got a plan to run across the border from west to east to Lake Malawi, and then paddleboard across Lake Malawi to get to the side. So we got like that kind of thing, like not necessarily races, but just sort of fun with friends, I guess.
Do you do a lot of paddleboarding?
No, I think the paddleboarding section is like wildly optimistic. It's quite a long way, and there's like crocodiles and quite a lot of currents and things. So That's the bit that's we've got a support boat, so I think we're unlikely to drown. But that bit of the plan needs a bit more fleshing out, I would say.
That's interesting. I because I feel like I've been injured for about 2 years now. As part of my sort of rehab, I took up paddleboarding at the start of last summer, and kind of got really obsessed with it. And I think it's a perfect, as far as like, you've obviously got cycling as a kind of a rehab sport, but I think, if you're not supposed to be using your legs that much, paddleboarding, or using your joints that much as it is with the injuries I've had, paddleboarding is perfect because it's all core strength, and I think it's a real good addition to a bit of cross training if you can do it. And obviously you've got the whole of Lake Malawi to go across.
Plenty of time to practice. Have some core strength by the end if we don't have it at the start.
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant. Okay, so just is there anything that we've not talked about that you wanted to talk about?
Don't think nothing particularly that was on my mind. I don't know, what have I forgotten? What have you forgotten?
I'm out of questions. What I wanted to know was, there sort of, if it's not too much of a personal question, how come you're in Malawi?
Yeah, it's not a personal question. So I work here. So I moved out here in October 2021 for work. So I've been here just over a year. And I'll probably stay here for most of the rest of this year as well. So I work as a doctor, so I work in the hospital here, and then I'm doing some research here towards a PhD. So yeah, it's a sort of 2-ish year relocation. It's an amazing country, and I feel like I've really kind of landed on my feet. Like, I've got a group of like women who like ultra running here, which I feel like is a community that's quite hard to find, like wherever you move to. So I've got a really nice setup. It's a beautiful place, lots of mountains, really hilly. nicer weather. It's pretty dreamy. Can't complain.
That's interesting that you're a doctor. I remember speaking to Ian Keith about the jobs that people have that are attracted to ultra running, attracted to like the especially long stuff. And he had a theory that sort of engineers and doctors and people that kind of have to do problem solving are attracted to long ultras, especially the spine. Do you think that that's kind of true of yourself, your personality?
I think there's probably a bit of a like because I pretend to be quite chill and not very competitive, but there's a bit of a like type A thing there, isn't there, as well? Definitely. I don't know, my spreadsheet for the spine was pretty extensive. So I think there's a little bit of that kind of problem solving side of things, probably.
Yeah. Do you find that one of the fun sides of preparing for a race like the spine, all the preparation as far as getting kits? Because obviously spiners are obsessed with kit, aren't they? Because they have to be. It's kind of you have to be obsessed with kit to be able to get into the race. Do you think does that interest you, or you kind of, do you just get the stuff because you have to get the stuff, or do you like the organizational side of things, of getting all your gear and making sure it meets the standards set out and things like that?
It's definitely a bit of a time sink, isn't it? Like, you can spend as much or as little time as you want to thinking about it. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm like as nerdy about my kit as some people are, and I know there's some like very strong opinions about kit and about the right thing to use and whatever. I guess I feel like I know from experience that like having the right stuff on the mountains is much more pleasant than not having the right stuff with you. So I'm invested in getting it right from the point of view of like not being soggy and sad. And part of all of it, like, one of the things that's fun about this spine is it is like, it's not just a race, it is this sort of journey, it's this adventure where you're being self-sufficient and you're and I guess I like having those skills. I like feeling like I can go out into I think it's something people often feel intimidated by, or people feel that something like the spine is very scary, and there's something about knowing that actually like you've got the stuff that you need to keep you safe. Whatever happens, you'll be able to take care of yourself like out in the winter. And so I guess getting that right is something I find like attractive and enjoyable.
Yeah, there's always plenty of time for going down rabbit holes with looking at kit.
Oh, there is. There is. Yeah, I was feeling like, I had the like, the ice sticks to your shoes.
Yeah.
Lots of people with like the ice balls kind of building up on their laces. And I remember thinking I've spent like however long trying to chop 100 grams here and there off my kit, and I'm walking around with like a kilogram of ice stuck to each foot for the last like 50 miles. It was ridiculous.
Is there anything that you think you're going to get before next winter's spine, as far as kit goes?
Oh, I'm sure I'll find something. There's no kind of glaring gaps at the moment. But I'm sure I'll manage to think of something to put on the Christmas list before that comes around.
There's always something to go on the list.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on and chatting. It's lovely to sort of, like I said, see you not in a disheveled state and looking tired.
Yeah, sorry, like super incoherent. How are you doing? Are you recovered? You can't have much sleep over.
I'm absolutely fine. I got home. I came home on the Friday afternoon and missed the last couple of days. I had to be back for my eldest daughter had got a cross country race on the Saturday, so there was no way that I was missing that. So I had very important. So I came back for that. And then I was just spent the weekend just being generally tired, because I think we did get sleep. We sort of got 3 to 4 hours sleep every night, but it was just that there was a few nights where you kind of were convinced that you were waiting, looking at the screen, watching the dots and estimating how quickly people had done certain sections, and we sat there, myself and Adam, chief photographer. And we were like, yeah, they'll be in before midnight, definitely in before midnight. And at 4 o'clock in the morning, we were still there waiting for them, like falling asleep at the desk. So yeah, I came home and my body clock was all over the place. But just I had a few tactical afternoon snoozes, which I haven't had for a while. I kind of the kids don't normally let me have afternoon naps these days. But I managed to get a few in, and I'm more or less back to normal now.
Happy days. How was the cross country? Did your daughter enjoy it?
Yeah, she did. She loved it. Yeah, it was Derbyshire. It was a Derbyshire championships. So she loves it. She loves running. She loves cross country, but she doesn't like training. So she kind of begrudges, because I think because she does come to me and say, you know, I want to be ready for this next race, and I'll say, okay, we need to do this, this, and this. But she'll she also likes sitting on the sofa and watching YouTube as well. So when it comes time for training, I'll say, you ready to go and go for your run? Or I'll send her a message saying that I'll be home at this time in my running gear, be ready for this time, and then we'll go straight away. And I get back and she's like sort of curled up on the sofa, and I feel like a harsh dad sort of suggesting to send her out again. So, but then she'll have a mad panic 2 weeks before the race, and she'll want to do all of the training all into the 2 weeks leading up to the race. So she'll do what she needs.
This is all very relatable. Seems like she's cultivating some strong running characteristics.
Yeah. So I think yeah, she has the potential to do really well. As she has got the stubborn gene, which I think will be ideal for ultras in the future. But my younger daughter Polly, she is possibly the most stubborn person that I know other than me. So I think she will probably, out of the two of them, be the one that ultimately is the better ultra runner out of the two of them. But you know, they'll never hear this, so I can't show
planning out their ultra running careers.
Yeah, it's early days.
As long as they're having a good time.
That's it. Yeah. But you know, they enjoy running, so I'll encourage it, as you know, without being that dad that pushes. I'm not a pushy parent, so try not to be anyway. So thank you so much for coming on and chatting. I really appreciate it, and I'm sure our paths will cross again at some point during the next year with races and volunteering and everything. So it was really appreciate you coming on. Thanks for your time.
No, thanks. Nice to chat. Take care of yourself.
Thanks, Hannah. You too.
See
Cheers.
you soon.
Bye.
Bye.